Hi all, thanks a lot for being here. I think we have a wonderful set of panelists, so let's start. Let's start with just quick introduction about, like, just go around. So why don't you introduce yourself, what you do, where you work for, right? So a quick one so that.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Animesh, and I work in Jupiter Money as a director of engineering. Currently, I'm leading data, infrastructure, and security engineering there. So Jupiter Money is basically a neo banking app where you working for India, where you can just download and do the saving account and other things, manage your money. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Aravindan, heading DevOps engineering in Azentio. Azentio is into banking, finance, insurance, and securities software development. So we pretty much, we develop software for almost all the sectors in BFSI. So thanks for having me here, Sathya.
Hello, I'm Deepa Casey. I'm head of infrastructure and cloud at Vodafone Intelligent Solutions. Vodafone Intelligent Solution is a technology arm for the Vodafone group of companies. I'm very privileged and passionate about being here today because this is a very important topic for us.
Kaun Banega Crorepati? All of you must watch that, right? 15th August special episode came on Sony Live. So I'm head of engineering at Sony Live, Sumon.
Hi, I'm Akshat. I'm head of engineering at ZopSmart. So at ZopSmart, we are into digital transformation, helping our customers migrate from monolithic on-prem systems to microservices on the cloud, as well as on-prem.
I am Chidambaran. I am a VP of technology at InCred. I used to head DevOps and data engineering at different times. Right now, I'm a senior architect, working with some vendors to ensure their systems scale within our cloud.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandip Mahanta. I'm Senior Director of Engineering at Piramal Finance. Piramal Finance is one of the top 10 NBFCs in India. It's one of the fastest growing NBFC. We are a multi-product NBFC lending, we lend from housing loans to digital loans to personal loans, a lot of things. And we have grown fast, and I lead the engineering team that did that.
Hello everyone, my name is Nayan, Naidu. I head the DevOps and Agile practice for a company called Altimetrik. We are AI-focused digital engineering company, helping various fintech companies as well as also the pharma and retail organizations to adopt the business transformation as well as the digital transformation, along with the focus on FinOps, of course. Back to you.
Hey, thanks a lot for introduction. I think we have wonderful panelists, so let's start with the first one. Want to understand, like, where you are in your FinOps phase, right? Crawl, walk, run. And what are some of the challenges that you are currently addressing in those phases? Start with.
Hello. So a few years back, we started with crawling. So right now, what I can say, we are in a phase where, like, between walk to run. So what happened within this? We started tracking and taking action on how the cost is getting spent and sorry. So what happened? Few years back, it started with from the management and finance team, why your spending is too much, why is high. So from there we started, but I would say in the recent years, it started with the budgeting. I think until you don't have right budget, you cannot just say, okay, I'm doing the saving. It's just a reduction. So, so this year we have been basically shifting goal, where shifting completely left side, where we know how we are doing from the start. It's not like afterthought. So, also bringing as an engineering culture, where engineering team itself is knowing how they are building, how it is going to cost, and is this the right cost for them or not? Yeah. You want to add anything?
Yeah. Thanks. See, the challenge that I have in Azentio is three-folds actually. The first one is getting attention of leadership team. So for that, I need nice report of what's the spend, team-wise, how much every team is spending, and putting them into accountability. So that kind of report is a little bit challenging for me to get it. The second is we are dealing with several legacy products. So, we have acquired many companies that have already got products developed using legacy technologies. So they are resource hungry and memory heavy. But our challenge is to put them into cloud and get them work, right? So that means we'll have to take care of the cost. At the same time, we don't have time actually to redesign, redevelop that product. So we have this kind of challenge. Yeah. So in terms of pace, are we crawling or walking or running? I would say we started walking. So we need to soon get into running mode. Thanks.
We have one in run and one in walk. We will come back and do it. So where did you add to Deepa? Where are you?
Yeah, I think we are firmly on the walk phase. Couple of months back, we all thought that we are already in the run phase, but then we reverted back and said, look, we are still in the walk phase. So we have solid dashboard, we have automatic tagging of the resources, and we have a very strong FinOps practice, which is cross-collaborating between the technology team and business team. But what we are missing, a couple of instances that has happened in last quarter, that we suddenly see a huge storage allocated in test environment, and the business finance report says that, okay, we are overspending. Then we have these sort of instances in our production environment as well, right? So the core of it is the collaboration. So couple of weeks when we did a workshop with various teams, understanding where we are and what are the challenges, I was surprised to understand couple of technologists and the analysts, they thought that tagging is just a formality, right? And that's the stage where we're in. Then we started establishing a very strong training culture, understanding, making sure that engineer and the business teams understand what is FinOps. We have obviously achieved a little bit of maturity there, but I still think there is a long way to go, especially in the cost collaboration bit.
Thanks, Deepa.
It's a wonderful question. So I'm not going to start with that, okay, we are into run phase. So we are actually into sprint work. Means I'm walking fast. That's what I can claim. The reason behind of it, it's that FinOps, we are not taking as a financial afterthought. It's not a time waste for us being the engineering side. What does it essentially means? We cultivated a culture where FinOps become a continuous alignment towards the business value. We moved from the kind of discussion tone that, okay, reduce the bill. Rather reduce the bill, now we are taking into, it's a architecture decision. So while you are building the architecture, that time, likewise you are thinking about scale, you are thinking about extendability, modularity, observability. You must talk about cost. You must talk about the cost optimization. So it is no more afterthought as a finance, it is more of an engineering decision embedded. While we are moving towards that, the particular shift what we have made is that during this FinOps part, right? I mean, while we are taking any of these engineering decisions, during this FinOps part, it is not only about the reducing the cost, but we are making sure every single spike, I just mentioned the KBC one, right? So every single spike, every single unpredictability come to us, we are adding it to the business value. The every single dollar we are spending on cloud cost, infrastructure cost, how we are aligning it to the business value is something is the FinOps. And it is not a one-time exercise. It is a continuous real-time alignment we are making with the business. So that's how we are running fast I can talk about.
Thanks, Sumon.
So at ZopSmart, our journey with FinOps is interesting because we work with a lot of customers and all of them are in different phases, right? So while our baseline starts with the walk state, because we as a company have developed practices and processes over time, what we also do is that we keep resetting our parameter of walk and run, because what was run yesterday is today's walk. So we continuously evolve where we are in terms of those automation And as Sumon mentioned about having it as part of the engineering decisions, making it not as a post-facto decision, but having it thought about on day zero, and most importantly, connecting it with business value. That whatever you're doing, beyond the optimization, does it even lead to a business creation? If not, the entire thing should be rethought.
So it's been interesting to hear all the panelists. I come with a different perspective. So we have been, as a DevOps practice from inception. So I've been part of InCred since almost the beginning. So we had a lot of challenges when we started off in the cloud, right? So at that time there were sudden spikes in various parts. So what we did was we instituted a practice of regularly monitoring what the spend on infrastructure and DevOps is. And we have come to a pattern, we have aggressively tagged almost everything. So we know exactly where the costs are going on across production and UAT and QA workloads. So in a sense, I would like to think that, we have gone past the walk, crawl, run stage and we have reached a plateau. But as somebody mentioned, every day is a challenge. What was good yesterday may not be good tomorrow. So I hope to learn something from this panel, honestly.
Awesome. So at Piramal, we started 4 years ago, started our engineering and started DevOps. Like first 1 year, it was just setting up things, just paying the bills and observing them. I think that's where we were. And last couple of years, we have put all the basic FinOps practices in place. We have put the Kubernetes cost report, we have put the Carpenter, we have put all kind of things that we can observe on the database. So we have like all the slices and dices tools in our setup today. What we do primarily is while budgeting for the annual thing, we kind of let's keep the cost flat while the growth is 2x. That's kind of drives our FinOps and the tools helps it. But where we want to go is more of a prediction. I can predict in next 2 years, I will reduce my cost by 2 for the same traffic or for the same business. This prediction is not there. It's mostly goal-driven using the tools. And that's where I would like to say we are in a walk stage and we want to run to get into prediction stage.
So very interesting because I get a chance to speak last after everybody speaks about these things. So to me, I have a slightly different perspective because most of the times tools or the framework is as good as the configuration and the usage. One thing that we all face, especially when we keep looking at adding a new solution or a new functionality to our existing infrastructure or existing product, we again go back to crawl. That's how I see it, because it's a continuous process. What happens is, it's very interesting to see, very similar to how we actually form a team, which is actually starts all the way from the forming state, right? Then actually it goes to a storming state, then a forming state and a performing state, right? Very similar to that, we actually see the cost actually going in a different way, mostly because we would have ignored that one new system which has come in, and the awareness of that system within the whole ecosystem of what you're building is something that we would have lost. That's the reason the journey is continuous. While it's good to see where we are from a maturity point of view, but it's also important to keep a close watch on what's happening. That would be mine.
I think it's very interesting to see like everyone has a crawl, walk, run, but from run, people think that they are back to crawl or walk based on where things are. I hear tagging, business metrics. I think we'll touch upon all these things, right? From now on, I think we will look into the culture, frameworks, and all those things. The first question is like, how do you build a engineering mindset? One of the biggest thing in FinOps today is like, we know like these things have to be done, but then how do I make sure my engineers have the right practices, right mindset, so that it can build a culture of it, right? Let's start with Akshat. Why don't you talk about how do you build the engineering mindset for FinOps?
Sure. So one key thing that we always emphasize on is connecting whatever we do in engineering to the business outcome of it. Because end of the day, whatever we are doing, there has to be some revenue generated from it. So, of course, the automation in infra setup, all of those things are now pretty much standard. Tagging gets taken care of there. Those are hygiene items that we have in place. But at the same time, the engineering decisions that are being made on why this technology versus something else, why this scale on day 0 versus having something like an auto-scaling in place, or reserving instances versus not reserving instances. That is something that we heavily focus on during the planning phase so that it does not end up being a post-facto situation. We are growing the cost as the revenue grows.
Nayan, you want to add?
Yeah, thanks. I think awareness is one of the key aspects, to be honest, right? Because when we start looking at the cultural element, of course, we'll be talking mostly about the AI at a later stage, but one thing that's happening is the expectation when we started using the cloud first as an approach that we all should go through. The expectation was, hey, cloud will solve all your infrastructure problems, right? It's available on a click, you go ahead, you get everything. But what we missed out is, though you get it at a lesser cost, you actually miss out on the cost year on year when it actually changes. I had a couple of interesting stories which I'd like to share here. One of the neo-banking customers that we were working with, they had everything on one of the cloud service providers. And over a period of time, the vendor lock-in was in place. The next thing that happens is they come back and say that, hey, the cost has increased to 1.5. So the option was absolutely nothing, because the multi-cloud concept that we were discussing during our session, our pre-session, that's something which was not thought about. Now, here was a situation where their HA systems between each other were actually having a challenge, because every interaction, the data transaction that's going was actually increasing the cost. So these are some of the elements where awareness becomes a key, and that's something that we need to keep a close watch on, because I think, Deepa, you mentioned about how do we make sure that we train people properly. The awareness, essentially, for me, is a super key thing, because once you are aware, once you make the team aware that everything comes at a cost, it's not only the regular operational cost that we are talking about, it keeps on increasing on a regular basis. If I may state one more example, we had a very enthusiastic employee who downloaded one of the infrastructure as a code from one of the websites, ran it. Because we didn't have any guardrails in place, next thing that happens is every region across the world, there was an instance which was running, and somebody actually caught hold of it and started minting bitcoins, right? And you can imagine what will happen next. So hell broke down, and we had to literally sit whole night just to bring those systems down. This is what I'm talking about just 6 years ago. Now, I think we have all actually learned our lessons in a hard way, and we are addressing some of these challenges. But to me, what comes back is every tool, we need to make sure that the configuration is right, and we configure it right, and we are aware of what we are getting into. Aravindan?
Yeah, so in our environment, right, so it's cloud-only development environment. So we don't believe in setting up our own data center. So that's the mandate. So that makes it important for us to have certain hygiene practices in place. As Deepa pointed out, we definitely need to have tagging for every resource that we have. On top of it, we should also have a nice reporting tool, reporting system in place, right? So how do we make engineering accountable for? So see, if you see, no one intentionally burns resources or spends money. So we shouldn't be blocking the innovation that engineering team is working on, right? So on any initiatives that they do. So what we are supposed to do as a responsible DevOps team, we tag every resource as usual, and then we generate nice report. And most important is we have set up observability. I think I'm pretty sure all of you know what is observability that I'm talking about. So it's open source Grafana-based observability we have, wherein that captures every metrics of every resource every 5 minutes or every 1 hour that we use, right? So that is giving us the usage metrics like CPU, memory, disk I/O, network, as well as the cloud cost. Ours is multi-cloud environment. So with these two, we try to generate a nice report that is going to give a complete ownership and accountability for every single team in engineering. It's going to say that project ID so and so, for this project ID for the last 2 weeks, this is the money you have spent. But if you look at the usage of the resources, it's really low. So you are not really effectively using the resources properly. So which means you are wasting the resources, right? So that kind of message we somehow need to pass on to the engineering, which is not a bad thing, which is actually going to help us optimize the cloud cost and also divert the money into a proper channel, into really useful projects, not just for the sake of doing some project, but then really not using it effectively. So that would be my.
Thanks, Aravindan.
Yeah, so I would like to add like few things that how we are doing as a practice. So first part is basically I talk about the budget. So within that, so every company I think essentially go with the annual operating plan. So we also go with the annual operating plan. So within that, there's two parts is to happen. One is basically for already running services and business, what is your growth plan? So within that, we go to the board and then basically understand with this growth plan, how much additional cost will be incurring? Is this a right, whatever current cost is coming, it is right or not? So do you need to optimize or not? So the second part is also comes with like there is new initiatives coming. So if there is new initiatives coming, so getting a buy-in, okay, if this is a new initiatives coming, these are the new features we'll be building by launching this month. So these are the additional cost will be coming. So that like we know these are the budget has been allocated, we cannot go beyond that. So that gives the right mindset at least business and finance team and to understand. So the second part, when this boils down to engineering team to go and implement. So the what we have done basically in last 6-7 months, we make sure that the cost part is also added as a NFR, like we have maintaining availability, maintainability, latency, other things. Similarly, also engineer has to think about the cost to operate, looking at the growth number, like month on month, maybe quarter on quarter, whatever. They basically add those costs to whatever the new feature, new services they are going to build. So this is, as a practice, we have started adding. And the third part is basically why engineer is doing this. So at the same time, what we have introduced a system for the rewarding. So let's say few of the services are running, they are going beyond our budget, and then engineer is putting some effort to reducing it, making it optimized. So what we have, like quarter and quarter, we have set up a system for rewards. So we have been optimized some certain amount, some dollars, we have saved it. So there will be some reward to that. So I think with this incentivized culture, I think engineering also become like alignment with this overall FinOps. So that's how we're building the culture. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Awesome. I think it's great to know like how you put a guardrail. I think Aravindan touched upon like one thing I echo with Aravindan in terms of it is like if you go and tell an engineer that okay, reduce cost, it's always been a pushback. But we have seen when you actually show them what's your CPU, what's your memory footprint, and then the engineer in them gets driven, and then they start actually going and optimizing it, right? I think that's the metric that they want to know that, hey, they might not really adapt to like what is the cost, but the moment you say you are running this bigger instance, but your utilization is not high, I have seen almost everybody just going and doing that one. And I echo your thoughts in terms of how you build a culture in terms of AOPs and how you make cost as an NFR. It's like 10 years back when I used to be an architect, like cost was not my NFR. So if somebody comes and asks me, it's always reliability trumps over cost. But adding cost will also make sure that that's another data point that they have to look at. Otherwise, everybody will just create a big machines to just make sure that it never goes down, right? Now, switching gears, I think today, if you don't talk about AI, I don't think that we are in the current framework, right? So, and there are two parts in FinOps. One is AI for FinOps. It's how do you use AI in the FinOps world. The other one is FinOps for AI. When everyone is actually going and building a lot of these either on Bedrocks of the world or directly using Claude, or it could also be running ML models or running on GPUs. How do you manage that? Let's start with FinOps for AI, right? So let's start with Nayan. Like, how do you actually look at FinOps for AI, and how do you see people managing that one?
Oh, that's a very interesting topic, right? Yesterday I was part of another conference where the first conversation that we were having is how the boardrooms of late cannot go without AI as a topic. In fact, there have been boardroom meetings which have been postponed because AI was not part of the agenda, right? So that's the current situation. And it doesn't matter whether it's an IT company or a non-IT company, right? Everybody wants to embark on the journey of AI, which basically means there needs to be a mechanism for us to keep a control or a watch on what's happening on the FinOps front of AI, because we're talking about large language models, right? And do we really understand, I mean, of course, open source models are already there, but there are some custom models which are being built, and it's the conversation between whether it is build or buy. More and more companies are coming up with your buy options. That's what is going on. But some of them are SaaS models as well. And once it is SaaS model, obviously everything is actually inbuilt in the overall cost. And they start saying that, hey, I'm going to use one of the cloud service providers to actually use this. When this is happening, you have a challenge again, because your cost is hidden. And only once you go to production and you start using this large language models is when you start realizing the amount of cost that hits you. I have a very close friend who works in the MarTech space. The moment they went live with their first go live, they had $1 million hitting them as a cost just for the first month. That's the challenge, right? I mean, that's where we really need to look at the guardrails that need to be set up. Now, there are models and there are quite a few product companies which are coming up with the models to control it, but the guardrails need to start all the way from how we are actually developing them. Because as the large language models are taking over and we have AI, we believe that AI is going to solve everything, but it's still a challenge in terms of if we don't keep the guardrails, especially the tools which keep a close watch on how much of GPUs that I'm consuming, how are we actually sizing, what's our architecture model, how it's actually looking. The first question that I generally ask whenever somebody comes to me, they're saying that, hey, this is my idea I want to build, I'll like, show me your architecture. And next, show me your financial model. How are you going to keep a control on it? Otherwise, sorry, we are not going to approve this. That's a model that I go with, which kind of works well so far. But again, there's lots to learn in this area, is what I'd like to say.
Sandip, you want to add?
Yeah, so I'll try to give some examples that we have personally gone through in Piramal. At Piramal, like we build our own software, so we as the AI disruption happened, I kind of pushed my entire team to use AI, and like starting with GitHub Copilots, do use that for software development. Then Anthropic Claude games. The fundamental problem there happened is I don't know the cost. It's not the CPU cost. It's not other cost. It's the token that you're generating is costing me, and I don't have any instrumentation for it. So we started, and these are some of Anthropic. We heavily use Anthropic. So these are startups. They don't have tools for FinOps at all. So we had to build our tools on top of the metrics they provide to able to identify who is using how much. So that's something we went to a level of at a user level, and like every CEO, CTO talks, make it throughout the company. So we have given these keys to pretty much non-tech people as well. So we don't know who is using, every chat is consuming $1, 1 cent, we don't know. So we kind of instrumented to the granular user level who is using how much token they are generating. So we have the visibility. So that's one of the instruments we had to do for this disruption. The other thing that kind of happened was with the variety of tools that came into the market. Okay, like we started with software development, and then now Gen AI chatbots are there. So you start chatting, after 10 minutes of chat, you don't know how much cost it costs. It's pure dynamic. So we put guardrails on number of conversations you can do. We put guardrails of number of dollar value you can go on a chat. So those kind of instruments we had to do because of the AI disruptions that happened in our company.
That's interesting. So we are building a FinOps tool, but year and a half back when all these tokens started off, I think it's a very similar journey where I asked one of my developers to just try it out. And next day I got a bill of $15,000. And all he did was just run through 2-3 things. And then I just go to Azure, we were using OpenAI, and then like I saw a bill of $15,000. And that's when I realized that, okay, now we need to build. And we actually pretty much build. We are now doing AI for FinOps. But whenever our customer uses, I exactly know like which customer, how much token, what they have done, so that suddenly I'm not getting a huge bill, because as I manage for others, I also have to manage for my own cost. So we built all these instrumentation to know that how these guardrails are set, right? So I think next, let's shift gear into AI for FinOps, which is again interesting in terms of agentic world, right? So let's start with you, Sumon, in terms of how are you looking at AI for FinOps?
Okay, so now table shifted, right? FinOps from AI to AI for FinOps. To begin with, probably I will ask a question, right? AI is a game changer. Question to audience, all of you agree to this? AI is a game changer? How many of you are using AI? If you can raise your hand. Pretty much everyone. Those who are after lunch bit lazy also, they are also using AI. The fact is why you are using AI, right? Because it's a helper to you. Now, exactly the same thing at an organizational level for FinOps we are bringing in. If you look at FinOps, engineering team and finance team, whoever is provisioning the budget and all, right? We have to spend together to bring up a report, collate all the dashboards, and pretty much all the discussions which is coming on table to me, those are all afterthoughts. How do you justify someone? How do we tell that, okay, we have spent this much? How do we say that, okay, there is a leakage, that's why this much expense has happened? Now, with AI, who can do a more faster execution of data analysis, who have the knowledge of different technology domain, can give you the real-time feedback. Isn't it awesome to have it as a co-worker or so-called co-pilot in AI domain, just in the real time? Yes, it is, isn't it? We have done the similar thing. So AI as a co-pilot is a game-changing in my opinion. Here we are a bit lagging because all the tools are not as mature as what we are expecting, right? We have to custom tailor few of the items. So AI for FinOps, what I'm looking towards, that it is not only a report building, it's not a dashboard. FinOps dashboard is not the future. AI Copilot, which is predictive scaling, real-time analysis, and self-healing, that is something, the capability, which will make the next move. If you are able to integrate these capabilities of AI successfully and sustainability, I will repeat, sustainably, then we are much ahead from our era. So that's something we are trying to build in Sony Live. Somewhat success, sometimes back foot, because not everything is as rosy as we talk about AI. So this is how I'm looking. The AI in FinOps will change the role. It is not that, okay, it is eliminate the FinOps role. It is more about boosting the productivity, boosting the accuracy in the real time. That's how I'm looking into it.
Thanks. Aravindan, you want to add?
Yes. I have 2 points to cover in this. It's AI for FinOps, correct? Okay. So if you have followed me from my last point where I touched upon, we are using observability stack, right? So observability stack helps us collecting the metrics through agents. So we have got lots of data, right? So we have CPU 95, P95 percentile, P50 of memory, CPU, disk, network, everything we have got. Okay, so what next? We got the cloud cost API also. Okay, so we got the metrics. Now we are checking for the last 2 weeks or last 1 month. For this cost, this is the metrics used. Fine, so where is AI here? Okay, so now we feed this data to AI and ask, is this the right size? Is engineering team using this correctly? So, AI gives me a nice report saying you are using too much. X large, for example. If you take AWS, it says you're, instead of using 4 core, you're using 8 core, which is unnecessary for the last 2 weeks. So it gives me a recommendation saying you can reduce it to 4 core, for example. So that way, I'm using AI. The second part, in extension to this, is, as I said before, we are a cloud shop. Everything, right from development to production, everything is in cloud. So it's very important that we, keep a close watch, close eye on all the money that I spent. So, I mean, in olden days, right, we used to use schedulers. So we say night 9 p.m., shut down the server, morning 7 a.m., start the server. Okay, so is everybody going to be there in the office at morning 7 a.m.? No. So, depends, right? So some testers or some developers may come a little late, 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. They may need the environment, actual environment. So what's the point in starting this at 7 a.m.? That's when we use AI. So what it does is, it's going to keep on that AI. I think pretty much those who are in DevOps might already know about a tool called, a platform called N8N. It's pretty good and powerful workflow automation tool, which has AI agents combined with business processes. You can do a lot of powerful stuff. So that is what we use. That AI agent is going to continuously running in the background. It's going to check, we have got hundreds of servers and environments. It's going to continuously check, is this environment in use in the last 4 hours? Every environment will have different configurable value. Okay, no, if it's not used, it will simply shut it down and send a notification to the development or testing or whoever it is, saying that it's shut down. If you want to start, you start. Until then, it's going to be down. So that is how we are leveraging AI and saving the cost. Yeah, just thanks.
Yeah, definitely echo to what Aravindan has said. So we are also using like our observability stack for monitoring our utilization, system level monitoring, like APM traces. So second part, basically, since our engineering on call also goes, he understands for particular alerts what to do, what to not do. And similarly, what we have built for daily alerting system for the cost also, because we know what is the budget for each account, each service level we have set up, and alert also comes. The part where we are using AI basically to help us to feed all this data, to identify as a prima facie where are the things gone wrong, so that like our on-call engineer spend less time to be more productive to solve the problem. So what has happened as a FinOps process, we are not running a separate FinOps team. So what we have basically built in the culture as a part of on-call engineer. So he has to look into the alert related with the cost also, since we have make sure that at the part of start, people has to use this as NFR. So that's why we are using it here. So that's where it is really helping for us. And so what happened, let's say we recently, what has happened, like few months back, some AWS Lambda, I think AWS Lambda, you understand, it's not in our hand because it is running based on the event. Some event is processing when even number of events increase, your cost will also get increased. So we wanted to understand like, so that's where it helped basically. It got the log of one service and AWS Lambda cost. Then it gives us the nice results basically, which are the services cause these things, from where this, the root cause, from where this is coming the cost. So definitely it really helps us to solve that problem at the prima facie.
Thanks, Animesh.
Thank you.
I think just to summarize, I think we do believe AI for FinOps is going to be the next thing. Like I think some of the panelists talked about, like you have a dashboard, but you download the data, send it to AI, it interprets. I think the future is going to be that you just ask a question, it understands what data to be picked up, and it does all the analysis and comes back and tells you the result, so that you don't need to really look at the data and start inferring, because I think AIs have gone to a level where it can interpret the data and tell you what these analyses are, right? So switching gears into guardrails, I think we already touched upon guardrails. I think Nayan talked about how he had to set it up because someone just ran a Terraform stuff. But let's understand one of the successful stuff to run a FinOps at a scale is to put a guardrail, right? It's like, how are organizations doing that one, right? Chidambaran, you want to go first in terms of how you set that up?
So one thing, right? I work for a BFSI sector. So what we do, how much money we spend, what all our developers can do, all that is audited. So we cannot, there is a inbuilt guardrails, but we have evolved into that over time. So when we started off, right, so we have had our challenges in the cost of a DevOps operation. He mentioned about excessive cost about data transfer. We went through all that early in the cycle, or as and when we adopted certain technologies. We were so in the data engineering, one of the tools that we're using was actually spinning off instances across 2 separate zones, and these were sharing data between them. That used to shoot up the usage a lot. So what we have done over time, we have had actually, we do have a monthly review of the cost that goes into our infrastructure cost. And that's the disciplined way of tagging everything, automating, and making sure the costs are staying low. And our developers don't have the rights to spin off instances as they wish to. We had one level of automation or optimization when we merged our dev and QA environments and instituted a whole bunch of automated the environments. These are all Kubernetes environment which scale on demand, so the developers don't lose time or effort spinning off instances. Second, we have another use case where we have to spin off MySQL instances, for example. So these are not something that can be automated because, again, these are RDS instances. So what we did was we instituted to ensure that all that is deployed only through Terraform interfaces that we built. And those are, again, tagged, and we also monitor if they are not used, shut them down. So essentially, what at least I have seen work so far is identifying all your potential, financial surges and instituting a process of discipline so that the costs simply don't go totally out of order.
Thanks. Deepa, you want to add?
Yes. So first thing I would like to talk about, Vodafone is an enterprise solution, enterprise company, right? So first thing is we have to define very clearly the accountability, roles, and responsibility, right? So one of the initial challenges that we had in this journey is who was accountable for the cost? Like I heard Sathya talking about developers didn't want to take accountability of the cost, right? This was the biggest conflict in the organization. Infrastructure engineers thinking application owners were accountable of cost, and then eventually finance being accountable for the cost, everyone thinking, right? So it's really about defining clear roles and responsibility and accountability of who runs the FinOps, right? And what's the roles and responsibility of each. And second thing is setting up a very, very strong FinOps practice with shared accountabilities. I'll give you a very important instance which has happened a couple of years back, right? When this was during the initial stages. Like the application team, given that this is applications were legacy, they wanted the highest configuration of everything because they think that it is not their accountability, right? And the infrastructure team wanted the right size. So this used to always cause the conflict in the initial phase. So the governance framework should be such that it's a shared FinOps practice with equal accountability or shared responsibility. The third and most important thing is it can't be an afterthought. This FinOps practice should be embedded within the CI/CD DevOps practices. Now, what we see currently is we have user stories, like we are doing a cloud migration at the moment, mass migration to Azure. What we're seeing is we have user stories defined to figure out what would be the cost for each of the markets. So this has to be embedded within the DevOps practices. Last but not the least, it is a journey. We need to have a very, very strong governance, and we can't be in a state wherein after a month we realize that we are spending 1 million more than the budget, right? This is, all of you would agree that this is going to be a terror. So it has to be very strong governance practice, and AI would definitely help with predictive analytics and giving bit more edge on where our spend is spinning through.
Thanks, Deepa. Aravindan, you want to add?
Actually, I wanted to add one point. Sure. Yeah. Sorry. I will just add one interesting insight or the point. What Deepa rightly mentioned. So there is a conflict. Developer always say that, okay, that is not my responsibility. I'm a coder, I will code, and that's it. I want a best configuration to run it. So in my organization also, it is not something exceptional. It happens. The way I solved it is that I spoke to the developer the language they understand, because I came from the developer background. I understand this pain point, right? While somebody says, okay, you do the cost optimization. So the way I asked, okay, how many developers are here? If there is any developer in this room, any DevOps member in this room? Acha, few of the DevOps, okay. Okay, chalo. So there is no developer. So I asked, okay, you studied about the memory complexity. Everybody understand order of n square, log of n square, and all other things. You know the time complexity. You just ensure you write the code or you build the product in a way it is optimized, at least order of n, right? So that your load goes, your infrastructure goes. It is not shooting exponentially. How it reflects in the FinOps cost? Because developer understand that, okay, the optimization bit of it. So while they are optimizing their code, while a connection is pulled through, so your Postgres, your Redis, your Mongo is not bombarded with a lot of persistence connection. Your CPU utilization drastically bring down. While you actually take care of the memory footprint of it, be it on in-memory cache, be it on distributed cache, centralized cache, or in fact your OpenSearch or Elasticsearch. All those memory footprint will come down. So does your network IOPS. So the way we solved it is that we talk to the ubiquitous language to different stakeholders who are all included in this environment for FinOps, that, okay, you focus on this particular area. It is, I'm not saying, though I'm a promoter of shared responsibility, but on practically, to make it sustainable, what I say, as a developer, you take care of the memory optimization and time optimization, time complexity and memory complexity. That's it. As a infra guy, you see that, okay, whether there is a slack means you are running a big instance, but that is only underutilization. You reduce it. So that's how the entire ecosystem comes into synergy and it is working. So this is one of the way we have solved, just to share.
Thanks, Sumon.
Okay, thanks. I'll not take too much of time. Thanks, Sumon, Deepa, and Anish. Just to add to that, right, from the governance point of view, there are 2 points I would like to cover. One is KPI, key performance indicators. The other one is key momentum indicators. So there are different KPIs. I think you all must be knowing. Cost KPI, how much cost for every account, resource, what's the wastage cost, so those stuff. Budget KPI, what's the forecast, are we meeting forecast accuracy, and what's the budget versus, how much you are spending against the budget, what's the deviation. And then engineering KPI, which is about team-wise accountability, how much each team is spending versus what they are really producing. And delivery KPI, time to value, time to market. So within that time, are they really producing a useful product? Is it good to be sold out in the market? Yeah, that's the KPI. What's KMI? So key momentum indicator. So it's about tracking. See, usually KPIs are for a quarter or half a year, things like that. But you can't wait for 1 quarter and then see, okay, I have crossed this, I couldn't meet this KPI, right? So you need to have a tracking mechanism, regularly checking, are we up to this, up to what we promised? So that's when KMI comes into picture, where you kind of keep tracking on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis just to make sure your KPIs are on track. And the most important one is a scoring mechanism. So this is something we practice. So, you show lots and lots of metrics, in Excel or PDF, whatever, to all the teams. Nobody cares. Nobody is interested in it. But if you show scores like, 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, that attracts everyone. So that scoring mechanism is something we follow as part of governance. So we say that every quarter, this is your score against what money you have spent, resources you have wasted. This is what you got. So that's what I would like to cover about governance.
Thanks. I think everyone covered about the accountability, KPIs. I think Sumon went further to instill the accountability, he went to the developer to tell them how you should actually be doing and why you should be doing. I think that's a very interesting stuff, because than telling them like, okay, you need to be accountable, teaching them like what and how you should be doing, make sure that they will never forget it and they are not going to build a n squared or a n cube loop. So I think that's really interesting thought process in terms of how it is, right? I think we are about 11 minutes. So I think the next set of stuff is we are going to talk about changing roles in terms of frameworks, then practitioners, how their role changes, and then tools. So let's start with the framework itself, right? Sumon, you want to start? How do you see the framework and how things change in the FinOps perspective?
Sure, thanks. So while we talk about framework, right, it's a predefined set of rules probably, right? Generally that's why people look into it. But for today's discussion, why this framework change we are bringing in topic? Because it is changing. Earlier, FinOps frameworks looks as a cost reduction framework. Today, we made it as a value delivery framework. That means earlier we always talk about, okay, how do we reduce the cost of cloud, cost of AI loads? That was the typical discussion. That how do you reduce it? Today's discussion shifted towards we spend XYZ dollar, right? So what is the ROI of it? What is the justification of it? During the beginning of our session, I talked about that value shift, the value delivery. That means each and every single spike we are hosting, that means we are spending, how we are justifying. How we are justifying a GPU spend on customer acquisition, how we are justifying a cloud spike or the spike in traffic, which is reflecting in cloud infrastructure cost spike, towards the customer satisfaction. So that's the change. So while we are talking about the framework, again, I would repeat the same thing. It's a continuous real-time process we have to embed it. It is not that quarterly review, we move to pretty much of a weekly review towards it, so that we can move fast, fail fast, retry fast. So that's how it is going, because it's an unknown territory. We have never explored it. Regarding the value delivery, our focus is always, rather than the optimization, focus on UX and how you are justifying the cost to bring that UX in place. So as simple as that. So you spend this much, you tell that, okay, how it is justifiable. If not, then let's optimize it. So making it very simple, only the focus has been changed so that our frameworks and the rule set, maybe the sequential rule set has been changed. So that's the shift of this FinOps framework I can see and where I'm leading towards.
I think very interesting. I think that's what we also see from few years back. Everybody was talking FinOps in terms of optimization, but today everybody looks at it from a value delivery in terms of the CFOs to CROs to everybody looking at it from a very different perspective, because cloud and SaaS has become integral part. So they don't look at it as like, how do I optimize? As long as your business is growing, is my cloud growing based on that? Am I efficient enough? I think that's what we see as well, right? I think we have it. So let's go into the FinOps practitioner stuff, right? How do you see the role of FinOps practitioner changing? Sandip, you want to address that?
Yeah. So FinOps practitioner, like earlier, it was more about looking at how the cost going. Now it has to change, looking more deep into what should be the prediction, how do I optimize this, and have far more slices and dices. More than just relying on these niche individuals who can do this as FinOps practitioners, I think it's more of a everyone's input is required. Like for example, you have to democratize to a level that each developer becomes a FinOps practitioner. Each operations guy becomes a FinOps practitioner, so that they control the cost. If there is a spike, so the FinOps practitioner cannot be the single person or the single guy. What also I would say the leadership has to encourage and reward. In our organization, there's a CFO recognition award goes who does the biggest cost saving for the year. So such kind of initiatives and practicing has to come other than just relying on the FinOps single individual practice. That's what I think. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. So FinOps being a shared practice is slightly tricky because typically whenever a responsibility is shared, the ball is dropped. So it's important that we define the KRAs for each role so that everyone is responsible for their area and we get success. So if we talk about engineering teams, as Sathya mentioned about cost being in NFR, similarly, we should have efficiency or the utilization be in NFR. Because even if, let's say, some application is using $10, but the utilization is 3%, that $10 is useless. So it's not just about the cost, but also the utilization. And then the cost per unit scale. So as the systems are scaling, is the cost scaling linearly or is it going exponential is something that teams should be looking at, right? That's from an engineering standpoint. Then from a product standpoint, the FinOps team, the FinOps practitioner needs to ask, is the current SLA really required? A lot of times what we see is that the product team says that I need an SLA of 200 milliseconds, which means that we have to throw a lot of infra at it. We have to scale up things really high. But does the business really need that? That's a question that product and business need to answer. So it's not just about the engineers being responsible, it's also about business answering that, okay, do I really need this? Now, the general discussion about FinOps is optimization and value derivation, right? In addition to that, there's one more thing that I would like to add is increasing the revenue. So if by improving the performance of a given system, that can improve the revenue, that's also a consideration that should be taken by the FinOps practitioner, that if increasing the improving the response time by 50%, does it increase the revenue? If yes, then that is a value addition, right? So it's not just about optimizing the cost, it's essentially looking at all the verticals and improving their value proposition.
Thanks for the amazing insights. So I think we are almost to the end. So I think, so the next question on FinOps tool, I just want to go around everyone to ask, what are your top 2 or 3 things that you expect a FinOps tool? I'm sure you all have evaluated, there are native tools, right? What are the top 2 or 3 requirements that you see in the current age of where things are that you want a FinOps tool to actually have? Right? We'll start from you, Animesh.
So basically we follow like heavily GitOps practices. So what actually I'm looking at the tool, whenever you are creating any new resource or deploying a new services, so via GitHub, whenever you raise a PR, so your tool should be able to give the complete cost, additional cost is going to incur, and what was the, any delta, if there is any change, what is the delta that is going to happen. That's the like key things I'm looking for in tool currently. So that like everybody is aware, like end of the day developer, everybody is raising a PR, but they don't know what cost is going to incur. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so 2 points for me. Again, I'm expecting any new next-gen FinOps tools to have scoring. If it can tell us this is the score you have got for the last 1 month, how efficiently you are using the resources, that would be wonderful. Number 2, it should have nice report, because the reports are meant for different audiences. Leadership team, they don't want to see, technical details in that. So we need to highlight more towards the cost. And for the engineering, we should have a different view of the report, which should show more about how effectively the resources, cloud resources are used. These are the top two things I would expect a next-gen FinOps tool to have. Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, I hope I can give a good backlog to Sathya. So I think FinOps is definitely moving outside cloud or public. So FinOps is everywhere, right? Be it SaaS or be it any software that we are consuming, FinOps is there. I would envision FinOps tooling able to provide a solution for all the cost challenge. And the second one is, as Nayan mentioned about the boardroom topic, sustainability is a very important boardroom topic currently, right? apart from just saying about the cost, if FinOps tool can be upgraded to also tell about the carbon footprint, how much increase or decrease in the carbon footprint because of whatever optimization, that would be wonderful.
Thanks.
Well, as far as I am looking towards the FinOps tool, right, my requirement is very simple, PA, P-A-A. Come on, I'm not talking about that movie PA. So it's all I wanted to say that it should be proactive or predictive. That means it should be able to forecast or predictive analytics that, okay, something is underutilized, fix it. Something is going wrong, fix it. Something went wrong, here is the alert. I don't want reactive, right? So that is the P. A means it should be automatic. No manual intervention or minimal manual intervention. Because if human is sitting at the night time also, then what is the use of AI, right, in FinOps? So that is why the automation I am emphasizing. I don't know, I mean, how much emphasis I do on automation, it would be less. So AI is having the greatest power of doing that automation, right? And third thing, right, which I believe it will take few years for us to reach there, is the accuracy, right? So nowadays, whatever the decisions AI is making, let it be in any field, it needs a moderation, it needs a review. It is not that, okay, AI has given me some result, I can go and blindly put it. Let it be finance, let it be healthcare, let it be any places, including OTT. So the accuracy is the another one. So altogether, it's my term, I called it PA, I needed from any of these FinOps tools.
Awesome, Sumon. I think we are almost done, so but I'll just go around everyone just to add to that.
Sure, thanks. So I'll keep it quick. So a lot of times the tools that we are looking at, especially the DevOps tools, they have a single bundle available. So if we have that slicing available that, okay, here's a FinOps tool which can just be like a co-pilot for any existing DevOps tool, that's something that will be really, really helpful.
Thanks.
It has to give me a good ROI on top of an already extremely optimized DevOps environment and future-proof me against runaway future AI spend. Two things.
Thanks. Most of things are covered. I will just say presenting insights in a layman way can also understand. That would be something I will add.
Yeah, I think we all spoke about the reactive and the proactive part. For me, what's important is the integration, because that's an element. Because most of the DevOps platforms that nowadays have the self-service platforms. Along with that, if we have the integrations that are necessary to demonstrate the usage as and when the activities are happening instead of actually being reactive, showing it at a later stage, that's something along with usage of agentic AI, where we start getting the insights. These are the things that I would look forward to have in a FinOps tool.
Thanks, and I think it was wonderful having everyone. I think I learned quite a bit to just understand what you are going through, how you are solving it. I'm sure that audience would have also actually had. Thanks a lot.